My wife quit her job, gave me no emotional support when I was sick, and asked for an open relationship while I was away with my family after my mother passed away. Now she's asking me to open a joint account and support her financially, or she'll file for divorce. Am I wrong to refuse her demands? I, 50M, and my wife, 43F, have been together for 7 years, married for 18 months. No kids on either side. Our relationship has generally gone well. We're physically compatible and enjoy each other's company. Honestly, the conversation is not super deep. We mostly have generally positive but surface-level interactions. From the start of our relationship, I've paid for most of our joint expenses, dinners, vacations, and we both moved into a house I owned 4 years ago. That wasn't a big problem for me. I earn well. And she was also making just over 6 figures and was able to buy herself what she wanted. She has a bit of a clothes habit, but it doesn't really bother me. Over the last year, a few things changed in our relationship. Firstly, my wife left her job. She went out on leave but didn't return. Then we went on vacation, and while on vacation I had a serious medical issue, which meant we had to cut the vacation short. I spent 6 weeks in and out of hospital. My wife was supportive, example driving me to and from appointments, but didn't really engage with what I was going through. A few months after that I had pretty much recovered. At that point my mother passed away. I grew up outside the US, so went back to my family for the funeral. While I was with my family, my wife asked me if I'd consider an open relationship. To be honest, the medical issues had negatively impacted our bedroom life. I felt the timing was inappropriate, and my wife apologized. I came back from the funeral a couple of weeks later and went back to work, but things felt tense. Last week, my wife told me she was running out of money. This was the first time she'd mentioned any money issues. We've never had a joint bank account, but she is insisting that we open one, and I put my salary into it. We've never discussed that before either. I told her that I didn't feel very emotionally supported in the relationship, and I feel blindsided by what I saw as an ultimatum. She responded that maybe we should separate if I'm not going to step up and fully support her. Am I wrong for refusing? Update. Thanks to everyone who commented. It's honestly pretty sobering and has forced me to confront some things about my marriage, but also about myself that aren't particularly pretty. We're sleeping apart tonight, and I'm going to bed. Relevant comments. NTA. As an adult in an adult relationship, it's pretty crazy to expect someone you met at age 36 to support you without some kind of trade-off. No kids, I assume, so what's she doing all day? She sounds like she's pretty clearly said, I want to sleep with other people, and if you won't support me financially, we might as well separate. She is an aspiring actor. She's been in a few shows, but they pay little to nothing and take up lots of time. Yeah, that is how it comes across to me as well. Comment. NTA, but your relationship sounds less about love and more about convenience. Are you together just so you are not alone? The marriage is young and may not be hard to get out of, but I wouldn't stay in such a relationship of what sounds like one of those, if we haven't found love by X age, let's get married kind of situations. If she's ready to separate, then maybe it is time to dip out. Opie, this hurt to hear, probably because it's more true than I'd like it to be. I don't like being alone. At some point I looked at all the people I'd dated and went, you know, this is pretty good all things considered. But pretty good, not great, or love of my life. Comment. Honey, she told you she wanted to fuck other people when you went to bury your mother. Is being alone worse than that? Sigh. You are right, of course. But sometimes when I hear statements like this, it's like reading about people with terrible bosses who stick out their awful jobs because they don't have any financial cushion. 2 weeks without a paycheck, and they are halfway to homeless. This is terrifying for them, and so they stick in the suboptimal situation, even though, in theory at least, there are many better jobs. I was adopted at birth. My adoptive mother, who recently died, was a narcissist who used me. I was smart, and she showed me off to her friends, which I hated. I had no friends of my own. Generally, my childhood sucked. I've made a much better run of my adulthood. Good jobs, my own friends, etc. But my relationship cushion is still thin despite 20 years of therapy. It doesn't take much for me to think, maybe nobody actually loves me. I'm not looking for pity. But be aware that just because something seems like an obvious thing to do doesn't always make it easy. Update. Well, it's been quite a whirlwind of a week. After we had the initial discussion, we didn't talk for almost a day. Then we came back with a mutual expression of WTF just happened on our faces and stared blankly at each other. I suggested that we take a time out to write down what was on our minds. Then we could have each other read it, and that would be the basis for a more in-depth conversation. So we spent a day doing that. Boy, it did not go well. I wrote about how I perceived she was emotionally absent while I was sick. She really didn't understand what I meant, and I tried to explain, you know, sometimes I just need someone to talk to. Her response was basically, all you want to do is talk, and I felt that was really cold. What she wrote was basically a diatribe, well that's how it felt to me, about my legal obligation to support her. At one point she said our marriage, quotes were hers, and I felt particularly hurt by that description. It was clear that we weren't on the same page, or even in the same book, about what the problems were. My wife then suggested counseling, and I agreed. Her therapist knows a marriage counselor. He sent us some intake forms, which asked us to rate our satisfaction with the marriage and the accessibility, responsiveness, and engagement of our partner. It was a miserable exercise filling out the form and realizing just how low my ratings were. So that evening, I sat my wife down and said, I scored us really low. She asked, should we bother talking more? I said, no, I don't think this is going to work. She agreed pretty quickly, and we canceled our appointment with the marriage counselor. We have an appointment with a divorce lawyer later this week. I'm probably going to owe spousal support. I'm not thrilled with that, but it's only money and I'll get over it. My wife understands she'll need to move out and has started packing. How do I feel about this? Obviously, it's a big shock. At the same time, thanks everyone for the comments on the previous post. It's clearly the right thing to do. There was nothing here worth saving. Relevant comments. For the spousal support, maybe the fact that she decided to quit her job could have an impact on the amount of support you owe. Opie, from what I understand, spousal support is based on the past year of marriage, when she wasn't working, yay. It is half the length of the marriage, so it's not forever, but it doesn't matter why she quit her job. It's strict community property where I live. Comment, family lawyer here and I call bullshit. What state do you live in? Opie, California. Comment, not how it works at all. Even if it did, CA limits support to half the marriage length under 10 years. So worst possible case, you will pay for 9 months, or whatever half is. Realistically, you'll pay nothing, as you did not make significantly more than her, and she can easily get another job. You had equivalent salaries until she quit her job.